State Representative Bobby Nardolillo, candidate for United States Senate, Republican. Are you in the House, Mr. Nardolillo?
I sure am.
Come on in.
How
are you, sir?
Good to see you.
Great. Come on right up here.
Very
Put your
good.
foot right there. Perfect. You're looking spectacularly dapper.
Thank you
Way,
very much.
way better than the host. You probably thought it was going to be Kate or Molly. Yeah, no, you got the B team. You got the backup, right? We got a couple people on the DL, and we're calling up people from the taxi squad. So congratulations for jumping in. I give tremendous credit for anybody who steps in the arena. I think people don't understand what the level of sacrifice is, how much time it is away from family and friends, and it's complete public service. I mean, there's no two ways about it. You're working all the time already. Tell me about, how's it been going from this beginning standpoint?
It's been going quite well. The feedback is overwhelming. It really is. Me being a state rep, the sacrifice, my family and of course the firm, the funeral home, was prepared for me to have a bit of an absence.
Right.
There's a lot of traveling now. We just got back from Washington, and the feedback has been really good locally.
Yeah.
I'm very much connected with the community. The funeral home has been established for over 100 years serving Rhode Island, so my name is there, but also connected with it is the fact I'm about public service. That's the reason I ran for state rep. I ultimately just want to help people. And I mean, that's really what every legislator should do. I mean, that's the foundation that we see that's absent in a lot of our elected officials, is the foundation of being a good listener, and you take the frustrations of the people and you fight for them. And it's that simple, Josh. It really is. The formula is that simple.
So I'm gonna, I worked down in Washington for a couple senators. I worked for George Mitchell and for John Chafee, and we thought there was polarization then, but things got done, and especially kind of the group in the middle, the more conservative Democrats and the more moderate Republicans. Well, now there's no conservative Democrats barely, and there are, 3 moderate Republicans, and John McCain, who used to be a conservative, is now considered a moderate. How do you go down there and make some difference and pull people together? There's massive frustration in the country about just getting something done for America.
And I think what we see now is what I've been saying for far too long, that politics, when it supersedes public service, is really what we're looking at. And we have to get back down to the foundation of really what it's about. It's not about your agenda, my agenda, and then we try to trade off and do all of this stuff, and it's about politics of slowing up health care. And we hope to not see the same thing with tax reform, because these are real important things to folks to rebuild the economy, rebuild their lives, and healthcare is to take care of your lives,
right,
your loved ones. So when politics gets involved with these elements, it's tragic, and you need somebody to step in there who will step away from party and represent people. And that's what I do as a state rep. I like to think that while I'm a conservative and I am a registered Republican, I serve the people.
Right.
So if you're elected as a Republican, what do? You only serve the party who elected you? That's not fair to say that. We're looking at, of course, my statewide race. I'm speaking of people in Woonsocket and speaking of people in Westerly. Their needs are entirely different.
Right, absolutely.
So you're not serving the needs of the voters, you're serving the needs of Rhode Island. And that ultimately is your fight. Now, on a national platform, my voice is just for the people of Rhode Island. So
right,
when something comes up and legislation that comes up that's good for Rhode Island, even if I don't sit on that committee, you can bet your butt I'm going to be there to testify.
There's only a member
for
of the United States, and there's only 100 United States senators, so it's a wildly influential. Let's talk about why are the Republicans in Washington struggling right now? They have the presidency, significant majority in the House, and a working positive structure in the Senate, but yet no major legislation passed other than approving the new Supreme Court justice.
I hate to say that I saw this from the beginning. And when we see so many candidates come out for an elected position, a tremendous amount. We had an A team and a B team, let's say, varsity and a junior varsity.
For running for president.
That's correct.
Rubio and Bush and everybody.
And ultimately, you see certain pieces of the party supporting certain candidates through the process. That's the same thing. So Now, it looks like it's a healing process within, things that we don't see, but you can tell when you had a stage full, 2 stages full, that you know it's gonna take time because that one candidate who was elected, everybody didn't ultimately support them. So now they're coming together, and it might take time, more time than I'd like to see, because things need to be done.
Could not repeal and replace Obamacare. 3 major votes on it. John McCain, 2 of the times being functionally the deciding vote to keep that from taking place. At what point, if they can't do tax reform in the United States Senate, the Republicans can't push through a tax reform bill, are they in some trouble that they just can't get it together and lead when holding the majority?
So I think it's very important that this is a bipartisan effort when it comes to tax reform now. I think when you and I, or any individual we see, it's about how much money we take home. We don't want to be working 50 hours and taking home 40 hours worth of pay. It doesn't
Right.
make sense anymore. And that, I don't think a party label is really, this is just common sense. So if folks are able to come to the table, Democrats and Republicans, and say, listen, we want to rebuild the middle class. The rich are always going to be rich. We don't even...
The rich are good at being rich.
Yeah.
They've got it down to a science.
Absolutely.
Multiple generations,
But the
etc.
middle class, but it's not so much as that, because we say it's just the middle class, but we have a huge homeless population here.
Right.
And once a month I go out and I'm able to connect on the food truck and go out and feed the homeless, which to me is something that it takes my breath away to see families. It's not just folks out there because they lost their job in this. These are folks that they need to get established again.
The Democrats seem to be better at pulling over Susan Collins from Maine, or Murkowski from Alaska, or John McCain over to vote with them. Can the Republicans get some moderate Democrats, which we thought, I think, going in, West Virginia, that senator's very, very conservative. They actually thought he was going to flip to be a Republican. Can the Republicans start to build a coalition, at least with a couple of conservative Democrats, and build a coalition to be able to get some things done?
I think we're going to see it more with tax reform opposed to healthcare.
Tax reform, what's your bet?
I would like to hope.
Whatever you say, I'm calling my bookie, and I'm putting big money on it. So, by the way, it's legal. He's in Vegas. It's all going to be legal. But whatever you say, I'm going to bet on. By the end of June of 18, will we have a tax reform package passed?
I would like to say that you could put your money on that.
All right, I'm calling.
I would like
All
to
right.
say that you could
I'm
put your
going
money
big.
on that.
Tony, you in? Tony's double or nothing. Let's go to Sheldon Whitehouse. Sheldon Whitehouse has been United States Senator for a couple terms now. Had a career as Attorney General of the state of Rhode Island, U.S. Attorney, worked on Bruce Sunland's staff with David Preston. How's he done as United States Senator after 12 years? What's your grade for him?
I would probably say, just from the perspective of the folks I'm speaking to, he's a C-plus guy. He's a C-plus guy, and the reason that I say that is because he's dedicated to one issue and concern. And if the state felt that that was a front burner issue, he'd be an A guy. But it's not. Folks are concerned about many different issues.
And his issue is global warming.
Global warming and the environment, which are concerns to me. Of course they are.
So
they're not front burner
the leading
issues.
opponent of the proposed power plant in Burrillville was on Friday afternoon with us and announced that he is running in the Democratic primary against Governor Raimondo, and he gives Senator Whitehouse low grades, lower than your C+. And he says he's inconsistent on environmental issues, and on an important vote here in Rhode Island, he won't take a stand because he's concerned about labor support over the issues of greenhouse gases and building a massive natural gas powered power plant. Is Paul right about Senator Whitehouse, that there's an inconsistency there, or is he being too harsh?
No, I would fairly say that's a good judgment, but I look at it from a different perspective. This is an issue that is solely in his wheelhouse. And he's fighting it on a national scale and position. We see over 200 times he's stating speeches about the fight of the concerns. Of course, he's profiting in a different way in stocks that you've exposed. But I would say the frustration comes from is that this is happening in his backyard. And these individuals in Burrillville have reached out to him, and his voice has been absent. Just take a position and say this is bad, this is concerning, but has completely neutralized his voice, and he's absent. And that absent voice is really what's frustrating folks. And it wouldn't surprise me as Paul stepped forward, because Governor Raimondo has been the same way, absent. That it wouldn't surprise me if somebody came out and said, you know what, we need somebody to go against Sheldon from our side. So
let me ask you a question. Are you a member of any private beach clubs located in Newport on Ocean?
I am not.
Okay.
I am
and are
Which
you members?
was quite disappointing to hear, by the way.
So yeah, when the senator ran against then Senator Lincoln Chafee, he made the pronouncement that he was going to resign any clubs that had a gender or race bias. And listen, folks of significant wealth have historically been members of a number of clubs in Rhode Island, a number of organizations that are all male or historically been all white or whatever they've been. And he said he was going to step down. And then you dig into it a little bit, and we've written a number of pieces about it. And then I think Kate caught him at a press conference, and there's an inconsistency there. He actually didn't resign. He transferred his stock over to his wife. He frequents there regularly. He socializes there. Is that part of his disconnect to people, that he lives just in a different world than the rest of Rhode Island?
And folks do see that, and I have to agree that he saw the political wrong in it. So he switched his shares to his wife, but morally it's really wrong. And he took the position that being an elected official and winning was more important than the realization that this is inappropriate and I really shouldn't have a membership here. And those who are elite and have that wealth and things like that, there is a disconnect. There's not the frustration of, I've received 7 bills in the mail, which one do I send out first? That's not what he's thinking about. He's thinking about, where am I going to dock my boat? Where am I going to buy my cars to keep at my beach houses and so on? These are things that are a complete disconnect, and folks see that and they feel that. And we just need elected officials who are connected. And that's really what it comes down to.
So a number of folks, leaders in the minority community, ranging from the NAACP's youth councils to leaders in labor movement, really raised some concerns that in 2017 this is a real disconnect. It's a disconnect for anybody, but it's especially a disconnect for a progressive somebody who positions himself as a progressive Democrat. Have you gone out and started to talk to folks in the minority community about this inconsistency and express to them, your understanding and sympathy on this issue? I'll say this about private clubs. There's a access opportunity when you're the member of some of these clubs, because the folks around the table with you, playing golf with them, playing tennis with them, have tremendous amount of wealth. And the ability to put together a business deal or help your daughter get into Harvard or whatever it might be, it's a shorter distance when you have access to people who have such decision-making and influence. And I think people are kind of tired of that. That's the sense we got from the reaction on those articles.
Our state is struggling. We all feel the struggle. And those who aren't struggling and who are benefiting in easy way out areas, as such you talk about, because of those types of relationships, folks know it.
Why are we, so the governor rightfully will come on, and Stephen Pryor's been on, they say, listen, we're at record level of employment, right? We've never been to just a tad under 500,000. And the governor will say, listen, I'm bringing in some companies. They're not the biggest, but strategically they're important companies. Johnson & Johnson, and we'll skip the details of the deals, but Johnson & Johnson, GE, some A-level brand employers. Why don't Rhode Islanders feel better about that? What's the lack of connection on this issue?
I'm going to tell you really what it is, and ultimately the foundation, or the reason that I ran, is for the small business community. Small business community in Rhode Island is the foundation. It's the backbone.
This is a small business state.
It's the backbone.
We do not have a lot of big employers.
We have no relief for our small businesses.
Yeah.
So the small businesses that are committed to us, love us, and continue to stay here and keep their doors open, but yet still struggle, are the ones that need the relief. They need the incentives. They need the acknowledgement and appreciation. The governor doesn't show it. The reason she does what she does is for headlines, Josh. She's about headlines, and she's about political agenda, not public service. We're all catching on to that. And what happened most recently? We saw cracks in her foundation. We saw cracks in her foundation when she said what she said, and she had to retract and apologize for it. But the realization is that we're hip to her game, and we understand what she's about. And we're not going to take it anymore. So in 2018, while folks think that she might pull this off, that's not something I would bet on, Josh.
You're going to likely have a primary?
The gentleman that's
rumor.
running.
Bob Flanders, former Supreme Court Justice.
Gentleman, great
Yep.
guy. He's frustrated. He's frustrated with current representation. And I feel as if anybody could step forward.
Yeah.
If they have a heart to want to do this, I open the door to them. It's not, and I always say this, and realistically, it's not about me and Sheldon, or even Bob if he decides to commit while he's exploring. It's about the seat. And the seat represents a voice of the people in Rhode Island. And the reason I'm running is because that seat hasn't been properly represented. And that's the way I look at it. That seat belongs to the people of Rhode Island. The person that's in it should be serving the people's agenda, not their own.
So Bob Flanders jumps in, and I've worked for folks who've run and things like that. And at the beginning, I always love the people who say, listen, I know I'm running against so-and-so, but I really like them. And you know what? We won't be like those other people. We'll still like each other when it's all over. Memo to file. No one likes their opponent at the end of the race. No one. How do you guys not end up killing each other, using up all your economic resources, and then only have 5-6 weeks after the primary and Sheldon Whitehouse walks in because you guys have bloodied each other? How do you as Republicans run a vibrant campaign against one another but still be ready to go in the general election?
Okay, so to speak to the basis of what you're saying, I'm not going to run against Bob or run against Sheldon. I'm going to run on my platform. So my platform should be something that Republicans are going to respond to and Democrats are going to respond to ultimately in a general election, because my platform is to serve the state of Rhode Island. It's not to win against Bob or win against Sheldon. So my funds that are going to be put out are going to be to represent why I feel I would be the better leader for the opportunity to speak for us in Washington.
What's it going to cost?
Probably close to $2 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably close to $2 million, and we're gearing up and we're raising funds. I'm going to tell you a short story that you'll enjoy. That we received a donation from Iowa from a gentleman, and he sent me $1 cash with a 4-page note that said, "I've been following your campaign. I read about your campaign. I love your heart for public service," and there were more details within it. But he said, "Folks, you'll hear say they live paycheck to paycheck. I live dollar to dollar, and every dollar that I have for the month is already been timely objected to needs, except for this one, and I'd like to send this one to you. It's my last one."
Never give away a letter from Iowa, because if you decide to run for president, you'll want that guy in Iowa, right?
But that's something that you think about.
Yeah.
And you think about that and you say, you're responding not just to folks here, it's a national frustration of the disconnect. And as I said, it's extremely humbling. It really is.
Let's talk about time frame. You've already announced, you were one of the earliest to announce for this cycle, and we don't know when Bob Flanders is going to announce. What's the time frame? What do you need to do let's just say by the end of the year, how much money do you need to raise? How many people do you need to touch around Rhode Island?
So my intention is to be able to reach as many people as possible. Of course, you understand that that's extremely difficult because of folks' schedules. Some people work 2 jobs,
Yeah.
which I'm feeling that
Yeah.
because we're talking about that. I would probably say you'd have to be in the range of a couple 100,000, maybe 250,000, end of January, February-ish. But you're raising it and you're putting it out too,
Yeah.
because you're
Right.
you're doing
100%.
things, and so it's money is moving in a constant basis. But money doesn't always win all elections. It
No, and
helps. You need enough to get your message to reach folks, and it doesn't win everything. This isn't a fundraising contest. It's
Listen,
about public service.
in the olden days, generally everybody who had the most money won the race. And now with the the impact of social media, it's democratized campaigns. I mean, Donald Trump got outspent 3-1, 4-1 by Hillary Clinton, and obviously won the election. On the flip side, Bernie Sanders was able to stay competitive with Hillary Clinton through small dollar amounts. Let's go around give some grades to some people. Donald Trump, how's he done in his first 9-10 months in office?
I would probably give him a B rating, and the reason that I say that is because we elected not a politician, an elected official with the past. We elected a businessman. So his philosophy and agenda and way he presents himself is more businesslike rather than satisfactory to a national scale of a political understanding of the way
You were a
things work.
supporter of his.
I did vote for him.
And, it's got to be frustrating. He does a great job. I think most people gave him high grades for responding to Houston, strong grades for responding to Florida, and then Puerto Rico happens. Part of it might have just been the infrastructure of FEMA, the fact that it's an island away, but the response is not as effective, not perceived as effective, may be more complicated. It was a bigger storm. It's an island. It's got its own economic problems. And then sort of he exasperates it with these blistering Twitter tweets at folks. Do you wake up some morning and going, oh, good, he had that one, oh, the tweet.
You know what the thing is? He's our president.
Yeah.
So it would be like you waking up every morning feeling you had to defend what
If you were
somebody else-
General Kelly, would you steal his phone and take away his Twitter account?
It's so funny you say that because, social
Yes or
media-
no? Yes or no?
I'm going to remain neutral. But it's funny you say that because social media is so impactful. And it's so important now because, especially with the live stuff that we have now, that folks want the information right from us.
Literally
They don't
right
want
from us.
secondary information, or by the way, I heard this. So Twitter, while I wish wasn't so fast that you'd be able to have a little bit more time.
Wouldn't it be better if Ivanka could just take a look at it before he hits send sometimes?
You know what? I think all
All right,
elected-
he's a B. He's a
He's a
B.
B.
We've got Senator Whitehouse, who's a C+. Let's go over to Governor Raimondo. What's Governor Raimondo's grade?
I would probably say that she's a C. She really is.
Solid C?
She's a solid C. She has the capability.
Harvard, Yale, and Oxford, that woman's never gotten a C in her life except for as governor. Let's jump over to Nick Mattiello, Speaker of the House.
I would say he's a B+.
B+. Very pro-business, small business especially. Patricia Morgan, your colleague in the House, candidate for governor.
I would say that she's always in the fight alongside me. I'd say she's an A.
Let me tell you, she's the feistiest. She's the feistiest elected official that we see on a daily basis. She's in the game on just about everything. Let's jump over. Senator Ruggiero's pretty new.
I don't have, to be honest with you, I don't have many interactions with him. I've never really built a relationship with him to know what goes on the Senate side, aside from what's sent over to us. I don't like the games of politics going back on what happened with the last of session. I think your word is your bond up there. I've established that through my whole life, and if something was said and there was an agreement to whatever it was, it should have been, it was what it was, because what ultimately happens is you stall up the work for the people
Yeah,
in the
right.
state. So To give him a grade, it wouldn't be appropriate.
Give him an
because I don't-
incomplete.
Yeah, there we go.
David Cicilline.
David, I would probably say he's a D guy. He's a D guy.
Pretty
the way-
partisan.
Yeah, pretty partisan,
aggressive.
but the way he had left the city of Providence.
Jimmy Langevin.
Jimmy's a C plus guy.
And who do you like for governor? It could be a very interesting Republican primary. Alan Fung, Mayor Cranston, Joe Trillo, your former colleague, Patricia Morgan's in the game, and Giovanni Feroci is hanging out there somewhere. 4 people, all with significant resumes.
I think-
Have you committed to anybody?
I haven't committed to anybody yet. Alan is a dear friend. Patricia is a dear friend. They're both highly capable of representing the state. I would feel good with either one of them doing that. Joe, I don't know, would satisfy the whole state's needs. And Gio, as you said, he's a great guy. He is also a friend. I don't necessarily know if he's committed to
Let me
this.
ask you a question. Somebody posed it to me the other day. Alan Fung for governor, Patricia Morgan for lieutenant governor. She's the attack dog. Alan's generally a nice guy. Is that a ticket that could sweep to victory?
I would very much support the idea of that type of ticket. I see great success in something like that. I very much do. I'd like to see a Republican AG.
Yeah.
That would be something that we really are in dire need for, and an AG that actually lives in Rhode Island
you
rather
want
than
one?
Florida.
What about Ted Seidel?
Ted is actually, he's a brilliant mind. And I gotta tell you, he's very gutsy, and someone like him would
And he just
would be
picked up
great.
about $70 million in whistleblowing funds. He might take a swing at
Great
things.
guy.
I want to thank you so much for coming on today. We want to have you back regularly.
Thank
This
you.
is an ongoing discussion. It's really the opportunity to be able to talk to folks on a real-time basis. And, as I said, I think anybody who takes the time, energy, commitment to jump in and run for office, it's a tremendous amount of work. Having been there, having worked for folks, people don't really understand it. But it makes democracy better. The more people running, the more people in it. And we've seen some tremendous upsets. No one in the world ever thought Ron Makeley would be a United States congressman when he ran. I mean, no one. I'm not sure if Ron Makeley did, but if he and Katie did, God bless him. And obviously he, had 4 or 6 years in the House. So I want to thank you very much and appreciate you taking the time. Bobby
My pleasure.
Nardolillo, candidate for United States Senate on the Republican